Sue Borison here from Your Teen Media. Today I'm here with Tim David Lang, who's a high school counselor at the Clinton School in New York City. So we are going to talk about parents of juniors right now. And what advice in your school are you giving to parents of juniors as it relates to the college process?
Sure. We're in New York City, so it's definitely particularly intense here in terms of managing everything that's going on and just the anxiety level that so many people are experiencing every day. So the first and most important thing that I'm talking about with junior families is to really be aware of how their kids are doing and make sure that they're okay. Make sure that their mental health is okay. Make sure their physical health is okay. For some parents, that's really what they need to be focusing on right now, first and foremost. In terms of the college process, I think, as is often the case, a lot of people get caught up in a lot of the details that are less important. The most important thing continues to be school performance, even in remote learning. So really focusing on classes and doing well in classes. It's particularly hard here in New York City. We're getting toward the end of the academic semester, and kids are really struggling with the motivation piece as they're finishing major assignments or projects, in some cases sitting for exams in their bedroom. So just really focusing on doing well in school, I think, is probably the single most important thing academically.
So they probably have a week or two left, right? Before school's over. How much time do you have in New York?
So in New York City, we actually go through till the end of June.
Oh.
Normally, the New York State exams begin in the middle of June. This year, those will be suspended. Some schools, such as the school where I work, we have the IB diploma program. So we have some extra work that students are doing in the second half of June related to that program.
Wow, because the schools in the Midwest we also start school much earlier. So you guys start typically after Labor Day, right?
Right, we do.
So in terms of, I've ticked off the box of worrying about physical and mental health, because
Yes.
that, I'm so glad you started with that. Yes, we should worry about that first and foremost. But now we're sitting down to talk about what should we do in this college process, especially when we thought this summer was going to be a time where we were really studying for the ACT or the SAT.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what's going on with those tests. A lot of schools are becoming test optional.
Yeah.
What are you advising parents?
Right. So, for students, the process is one where it's important to play to your strengths. So if your child is a strong test taker, you still really want them to have a shot at the SAT or the ACT, especially if there's someone who hasn't sat for the test yet, because there are some kids out there who don't even have a test score yet. And so if that's particularly one of your strength areas, test optional doesn't mean don't submit tests. The most selective schools especially are still very interested in testing, even the ones that are test optional. So go ahead and continue on your test prep plan. You may be sitting in your home in August, sitting, like they did for the AP exams when you're taking your SAT. Also, the ACT, many people don't realize, already has done testing remotely for international students for a number of years. So they most certainly are already set up to do remote testing. So definitely go ahead and continue with the standardized test prep. For those people who have strong academic transcripts, strong school transcripts, and aren't great test takers, this is a great opportunity. And so you're going to be able to highlight other parts of your application where your strengths are.
That's great advice. Taking tests online. So what's the conversation we should have with our kids? Where is that line of an open book test or a group test and then cheating? I think that for a lot of our kids, this is a new space, and the conversation is the lines are blurred and the conversations are challenging.
I think it is very hard. I think as a parent myself of teenagers, and as someone who's worked with teenagers for 20 years, I can say that just like adults, we open up the newspaper and we see, unfortunately, cheating is a normal human activity, a normal human response. And so part of what we're doing is we're socializing our kids to learn how to deal with dishonesty as they become adults themselves. And so I think it's important to have a real conversation as a person and talk honestly about the temptations. And another example of how do we behave when people aren't looking. Kids are very much used to their peers who appear one way in front of teachers and parents, and then when teachers and parents are not around, they appear another way. So I think it's another opportunity to talk about honesty and what that really looks like. It's genuinely challenging, particularly in situations where we feel like the stakes are very high.
Are there parameters? Like, if ACT's already done these tests remotely, are they set up so that they can catch kids who are cheating? Is that a thing?
It is a thing. It's not something that I have enough firsthand experience with to say, this is exactly how they will do it. But I can tell you that I do have some experience talking directly with the College Board about academic dishonesty on SAT testing through the SAT school program that we have in New York City, and also through students just sitting for the test. And it's really something that you want to stay away from. We also have it come up with IB testing sometimes, and it's quite different than turning in a plagiarized paper to an English teacher who knows you and who really can help you have a learning experience. It's a very different thing to be academically dishonest on a high stakes standardized international exam.
The thing I like about this conversation is that it arms the parents with a little bit of information to be able to say, listen, I don't know and you don't know if they've got a way to find out, but it's just one more reason to take the high road because it could really damage your reputation.
Yes, damage your reputation. And then also, of course, the member organizations are the colleges themselves to which you're applying in the case of the College Board. And you really don't want that to be talking about playing to your strengths as a college applicant. That's not an area of strength.
Okay, so a question I have is, it's come up before, kids are experiencing something extraordinary. We all are. And,
Yeah.
and when the conversation about the essay comes up, there's always this, like, how can you stand out with your extraordinary story?
Yeah.
What are you telling your students in terms of this particular moment? Do you think colleges are going to get fatigued by too many COVID stories?
I unfortunately don't think it. I know it, and have already had a number of conversations with college admissions officers who are dreading
Hmm.
uh, reading this stack of essays. Look, it's very hard when you're 17 years old to most 17-year-olds don't have original life experience that sets them apart from the other tens of thousands of applicants out there. So it's not the experience that sets you apart, it's you as an individual, and really finding your voice and really speaking, really telling a story that's about you, where someone can really hear you. And so one of the things that I talk with my students a lot about is read your essay out loud. Does it sound like you? Can you hear your voice in it? And more of a focus on that than telling that there's one specific story that you need to tell. Find something that you care about and tell that story. Like you said, everyone is having some version of a difficult time right now. So stay away from this old idea that you need to, that the only good college essays are the ones that tell a horrible story and overcoming some huge adversity. And, that's not everybody's life, and that's fine.
So you can get into college by talking to the janitor, because we all know that story.
Yes.
But then don't write about it if you read about it somewhere, right?
Right. Right. I think that a lot of the best essays that I've read are about very mundane things, very, very mundane topics. Recently read an essay about a young woman who took up birding, who really likes birding. And there are a lot more birds around right now. And so just talking about what that's meant for her and what it's meant to be around so much more quiet than we're used to here in New York City. So it's not a specific topic that's going to make a great essay. That's not really how it works generally.
What I love about it is you're really saying this is another data point. Yes, like you
Yeah,
take the test, whatever, but it's also
yeah,
it's your chance to tell whoever's reading it who you are.
yeah. That's right.
That's great. So don't write about COVID, guys. Okay, so for one last question, one last comment to parents out there,
Sure.
what is the thing that you're finding the parents are most concerned about right now, and how are you helping them kind of settle down?
Right, right. I think that we're very used to planning for things, and particularly around the college process, we're especially used to planning multiple years out. And I think that the parents I've seen who are having the hardest time in some ways are the ones who are really getting into some difficulty with their kids and pushing on them to really forecast forward when the kids are just trying to, particularly in junior year, trying to manage the course load at the end of what is a very important year for them academically. And so in some cases, some of our students are using independent college counselors. And so if you're a parent who's thinking about that, I know a colleague of mine, Bill Short at the Short List, is certainly seeing an uptick in people who are reaching out to him. And, that's, I think, a good option if you feel like your child is not getting enough direction from a school where they are. I know many larger suburban school districts are really struggling to forecast forward, and planning around the college process is really taking a back seat. So I would say not to really push on your student right now so much in this last period of the school year. For those of your listeners who their school year is already finished, certainly if they're already into their summertime, then it's a different period. Then you really can do more of the virtual visiting. You really can do more of the other sort of traditional activities, but obviously remotely.
Tim David Lang, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time and sharing your wisdom with us. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Take care.